Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 7, 2024 meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee of the Hillsborough County Transportation Planning Organization. My name is Rick Fernandez. I'm the chair of the committee and the Hispanic at-large representative. Let me get that out of the way straight away. As is our normal practice, I'm going to go around the room, starting from my left, ask everybody please to identify themselves and your appointing authority.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dana Lazarus, and I am City Councilwoman Lynn tax appointee.
I'm Jim Davison, and I'm appointed by Commissioner Wastel.
Good evening. I'm Joseph Citro, and I've been appointed by Councilman Harry Cohen.
My name is Matt Sink. I am appointed by Alan Clendenin.
My name is Ilya. I am not sure who I'm appointed by, but I am the under 30 at large chair.
Greg James, at large, representing the West Chase area.
Good evening. I am Hodges Williams. I'm appointed by Tampa Planning Commission.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christina Costa, and I'm appointed by City Councilman Guido Maniscalco.
I'm Ed Mrzynski, and I'm appointed by the Tampa Hillsborough Expressway Authority.
Josh Frank, Hillsborough County School Board.
Wade Prindle, appointed by Commissioner Pat Campbell.
And Gina Torres, TPS staff, the Assistant Executive Director.
All right, thank you, everyone. Gail, would you be kind enough, please, to call the roll and help us get to declaration of quorum?
Yes, sir. I've got a couple more people coming in virtually, so just give me one moment.
Actually, that's a good point. We have committee members online.
We do.
All right, would the committee members online please identify themselves and appointing authority?
Artie Fryer, Transportation Disadvantage Coordinating Committee.
Mike Decker, Councilman Michael Owen.
Chris Gonzalez, Hispanic representative.
Is that it for our online?
That is all for the online members. Yes, sir.
And Mr. Hollenkamp has just walked in. Stephen, would you please state your name and your appointing authority?
Yeah, hi, everybody. My name's Stephen Hollenkamp. I was appointed by the City of Plant City.
Okay, Gail, you're back on again. Please for the roll.
Okay, and just for safety's sake, if anybody in the room has logged in on a mobile device, make sure it is muted. Okay, let's start from the top. Bill Roberts, Rick Fernandez,
Here.
Jim Davison,
Here.
Carolyn Brown, White Prindle,
Here.
Michael Decker,
Present.
Joseph Citro,
Here.
Aya Yassin, Stephen Hollenkamp,
Here.
Christina Costa,
Here.
Dana Lazarus,
Here.
Matt Zink,
Here.
Artie Fryer,
Here.
Don Skelton, Ed Mrzynski,
Here.
Ilya Lashnov,
Here.
Terrence Trott,
Here.
Hodges William,
Here.
Joshua Frank,
Here.
Chris Vela,
Here.
Sarah Thomas, Greg James,
Here.
Chris Gonzalez.
Here.
We do have an in-person quorum.
I'm sorry, it was, who was it?
Chris Gonzalez, excellent.
Okay, was that did I hear a here
Yes, sir.
from Chris Gonzalez?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So did you declare quorum?
Yes, I did. We do have an in-person quorum.
Sorry, you said it, I didn't hear it. Okay, thank you very much. All right, that brings us to public comment. See several people in the room. I assume some of you are here for public comment. You have 3 minutes to say your piece. Look forward to hearing from you. Who's first? We have Sanchi.
It's right there.
Mr. Chair, do we have a timing of a person or does that work?
I don't know if we have a timing person. Gail, can you time?
Yes, sir.
Get one person. Okay. Okay. Give me a 3 minutes.
Thank you. So Gail, we are gonna donate, someone in the audience is 3 minutes to Lena. Just
Okay.
short, 6 minutes. Thank you.
Would you state your name, please, for the record?
Good evening. My name is Lena Young Green. Do you still need my address?
No,
No, okay.
I don't know. Is your mic on?
It should be.
Speak closer to it.
Okay, all right, thank
I hear
you.
you.
Okay, is that better? Thank you for the opportunity to come to speak with you all today. We know that those in this room really represent us who are on the ground, who live in our communities, who are actual residents within the places where we care about. So thanks for the opportunity to come and speak with you. Today, I would like to ask you to give your attention to a three block space. Robles Park is one of the few parks in the city of Tampa that resembles and has all the parts and pieces that park has. It's a neighborhood park. I happen to live across from that park, have lived across from the park for over 42 years. And the park has been our front yard for raising 4 rambunctious boys whenever they get into what boys get into. The park is very special to us. We clean the park. We know the neighbor who lived across the street, who we called her the duck lady. Our family took the cleaning lady, the cleaning families. And we even had our junior civic association where we would have our children get bags, go out and clean the park, clean the streets around, come back, and they get a small stipend. And with that, they could go to the store, but they cannot purchase any of the junk food. And those children would do that religiously. We had one child, she was about 5 years old at that time. And she came to Mr. Kareem and she said, Mr. Kareem, do you know I saw this guy throw some trash in the park? And I told him he couldn't do that. And that happened from that child from she was young. So we've been managing and working around that park for years. It's a place that we have a lot of pleasure in. It's a park. So now, over the recent years, we've had this conversation about what goes behind the park because it abuts the interstate. And how do we manage that 3-block area? It's a park. And the conversation had been before, some of you would remember that there was no allowance for anything, any kind of a wall there. At first, residents started advocating for that, and eventually DOT actually went out and found funds and found that a barrier could go there. So we're not discussing a barrier. A barrier needs to be there. However, in recent years, what has happened is that there are studies about our environment. Our environment is changing. I don't care. There are some people who say that it's not, but the truth is we're getting hotter. We're having storms. We're having more storms. That's a reality. Now we are learning what walls do on interstates. And we're learning about heat islands that are created when walls are built on both sides of an interstate. We're learning that there are the particulate, I'm getting very educated, that generates when the vehicles, and now we're getting more and more vehicles coming through. When those vehicles come through, that particulate matter with the hot sun that we have in our area, it moves the contaminants around. While it's hot, it generates at the lower level. As the sun goes down, it rises and it gets into the air, and then eventually it circulates within our community. That's what the wall does. The alternative, folks, are trees. Trees have so many benefits. Trees, although some people have a question about whether the trees produce as much of a sound wall as the wall does, that's debating right now. Some say that it does, some say that it doesn't, but at least it's equal, at least as far as we know now. Trees also have all the other benefits. I don't even have to tell you what trees do. Cleans the air, cleans the soil, cleans the water, filters the runoff water that runs into the lake that we have there. That lake has been there forever. When my children were small, and the lake would dry out, we would see the spring feeding the water in there. Now it's a runoff pond. But children in my community will get their little fishing rods and go to that lake and fish. One evening, there was a child, one of our children, it was dark and they're coming back from the lake, and he said, "What are you doing? It's time for you to get home." Well, we didn't have anything to eat, so we went and to see if we could catch some fish so that we could have supper. Trees will filter that runoff water so that our lake is cleaner. It's a beautiful little park. Could you imagine walking out of your house and you see a big wall up there when you know that if the time is taking and the intentional approach to how do we solve this three blocks length, and you know that these things relate to the kind of wall and kind of barrier that we are put there, why would we not put trees? I know one of the things that we've heard is cost.
Share, that's time.
Thank you, Lee.
Okay, thanks.
Who's next? State your name, please.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to come before you and speak on behalf as a community member. Roble Park, as Lena was stating, we all know, and she's like you
State your
said.
name, please.
Yes, I'm sorry, LaRon Barber.
Thanks. And
Yes.
keep the volume up.
Okay.
I'm having a hard time.
Okay, thank you. I'll do that. So, like she says, we're here to speak as the community on behalf of Robles Park, what it means to the community, what it has meant over the years to the community. It means even more today. Environmental, as she stated, it is what it is. We know what it is. You know, and as far as the kids and playgrounds, the environment of the wall creates, like she says, the heat barriers. Trees, they give life. We all know that. Not just noise reduction, they give life. We want life. We got kids. We want them to continue to play and not have to, you know, if they fish for dinner or whatever the case may be, that's life. Storm runoff, we know what those trees do. So that's what we're here for. We're just here to petition you all for what is best for our community, as you know what's best for your community. And we just want to just be good stewards, as Lena says, clean the park. Kids cherish it. So we want to fight for it today and the future for the kids. That's what's important to us. And we're just here to be good stewards and, you know, community members. We're here to work with you guys, not to bash you. We just want you all to work with us in our communities and save our kids just the same. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Next. Again, state your name, please. 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Alex Whitaker. Can you hear me okay?
You need the mask?
Yes.
Okay, well, have at it then.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Awesome, great. Okay. Hi, I'm Alex Whitaker. I'm a student from USF. I'm a current master's student in anthropology and library studies. And I'm here to talk about this barrier. I know barrier is needed, but I believe that it can be a green barrier. I have participated in 2 different studies in environmental anthropology, one of which was the Tampa Bay Trees study, where we interviewed residents and did research regarding the urban tree cover in Tampa, which has reduced since 2011 by 3,000 acres, 12% down. And I learned through that class by Dr. Zarger and a class of stormwater revitalization by Dr. Wells about the importance of trees and plants to reduce pollution and to revitalize stormwater ponds. They contribute to soil health, they help mitigate flood issues, and trees reduce temperature by 6 degrees cooler than impervious surfaces such as concrete walls do. I understand that wanting a wall for its noise reducing qualities is important. However, the heat island that a concrete wall would create outweighs the benefits, in my opinion. Trees have proven to not only reduce noise by 6 to 15 decibels when placed in clusters by highways, but contribute to lowering temps, as I mentioned, and improving air quality. They're able to absorb high frequency noise, as been indicated by studies, and they're perfect for highways, and this has been proven in multiple other cities. Trees are better for human and animal health, including the noise and air pollution, and avoiding the heat island and processing water runoff as well. Thank you so much for hearing me. And if you would like to hear about any of those studies that I did, I can send those to you. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have anyone else for public comment? No? Do you have anyone online?
I don't
Oh, wait.
see anybody. I don't
Oh,
think.
wait a minute. We do have someone here.
Okay.
Hi.
Could you please state your full name?
Hi, my name is Catherine Wallace, and I'm currently the Tampa Heights Community Garden Coordinator. I'm in the neighborhood constantly because I love gardening and I'd rather be there at the garden than in my house doing whatever people do with their houses. I don't know. But I'm here because I've been watching the Robles Park for a long time. When I first moved to town in 1970, it was a favorite spot of mine. And when my husband and I were first dating, we would go there to hang out because it was such a beautiful park. And I've been involved with Tampa Heights Junior Civic Association and all the folks in Tampa Heights that I've gotten to know and love. And I see that it's important that there be a sound barrier. But I think this aspect of heat and the climate change and the fact of all of this cement for 14 feet worth of wall, if a better solution could be made using trees because of the natural aspect and the wildlife that can be generated by having trees there, then I'm all for it. So now I'm going to switch hats and I'm going to talk to you as the past president of the Tampa Garden Club. And our current president is here this afternoon also to show support for trees because we have for several years been doing lots of funding of trees. So we are listening to this project very carefully and ready to support what we can financially in regards to the trees being the solution. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I'm the current president of the Tampa Garden Club. My name is Paula Meckley, and I do want to speak on behalf of trees. Trees being planted are super important. The sound barrier, just the carbon monoxide and all the things that they absorb are an amazing support system for not only animals, but for humans. So Tampa Garden Club, that is our mission. I actually have been talking to the the money we got for the 1,000,000 trees. And she was saying, it's not the trees. We've got the trees, we've got the money. It's getting the trees planted. That's our biggest problem. So Tampa Garden Club stands on the ready. If you need help, we're here to help. We want to help. We want to plant trees. So we support this effort. We think it's really smart of what this neighborhood is really forward thinking. So we want to support them however we can. Thank you.
Thank you. There, anyone else for public comment in the room? And do we have anyone online for public comment?
Chair, I have Kristen Brown. She does not want to unmute, but she did type her comments into the chat. Would you like me to read them?
Depends on how long they are. But,
I think
yeah.
I can do it within 3 minutes. I will
Yeah.
reset and start the timer.
All right, fire away.
Okay, let's see here. I'm writing to express my enthusiastic support to undertake the planting of a diverse array of trees and plants at Robles Park situated at 3305 North Avon Avenue in Tampa, Florida, 33603, alongside Interstate 275 instead of a concrete wall. As the 2022 Mother of the Year for the state of Florida and the founder/director of Tribe Seminole Heights, a local nonprofit deeply engaged with our community, I have a vested interest in the well-being and environmental health of our neighborhood. Many students from our partner school, Broward Elementary, reside near Robles Park or in the adjacent housing development, making this initiative not only an environmental concern, but also a matter of children's health and community well-being. The proposal to replace the planned 14-foot walls with a natural barrier is an important one, addressing the pressing issue of urban heat islands and the trapping of vehicular pollutants, which are of particular concern in densely populated urban areas like ours. The introduction of trees and plants offers a multifaceted solution, acting as natural air purifiers, noise barriers, and stormwater filters, while also enhancing the aesthetic and ecological value of Robles Park. It is also worth noting the presence of the Rich House, a community center within Robles Park that serves as a vital resource for our community's youth. The implementation of a green barrier would significantly contribute to creating a healthier, more inviting environment for the myriad activities that take place there. While I'm unable to attend today's Citizens Advisory Committee meeting in person, I wish to convey my strong support for this initiative through this letter. The benefits of integrating natural elements in our urban infrastructure cannot be overstated. They extend beyond mere beautification, offering tangible improvements to air quality, stormwater management, and community health. I urge you to recognize the value of this proposal and to support its implementation. The initiative represents an opportunity to foster a healthier, more sustainable urban environment for the residents of Tampa Heights and the broader community.
Thank you. Gail, would you identify that contributor again, please?
Yes, sir. It's Kristen Brown.
Thank you, Kristen, if you're still out there listening to us. All right, is there anyone else online?
I don't see anybody else in chat and nobody has their hand raised.
Okay. Gina, I understand that you did receive some emails
I did.
for public comment.
And I'd like to just at least announce their name and kind of highlight some of the things that they said, very similar to what you've heard, but I want to give them that recognition. Kristen Brown, we do have your full email. And by the way, all of these emails will be in the packets for the TPO board meeting next week. Anyway, and I will document your comments here that will be also read at the TPO board meeting. Which this item isn't on the TPO board agenda, but it's still something that we will read into the record as part of this report. But we also received an email from Dominique Cobb. She asked that we consider the 2016 tree canopy and urban forest findings as to how trees help with wind resistance in the ecosystem. There's some other comments she made, but I'm summarizing. Tony Cole also wrote extensively about the impacts of the interstate in that neighborhood. And he said, as a resident of Tampa Heights, that a retaining sound barrier wall is planned for Robles Park. I stand against the construction of this wall. I would like to see DOT and plan lean more heavily on more natural environmental solutions, such as a row of trees. Brian Steele wrote, I asked the CAC and the TPO board to request that DOT revise their plans to minimize concrete walls and enhance natural green barriers. This is important for the health of nearby residents, the impact to the surrounding environment, as well as the natural beauty of the park. Chris Vila, who's a member here and also online, but he was writing about a report that correlates redlining and noise impacts. And the there's a long report that he has that he's sharing with us about redlining and noise impacts.
I question whether one of our members should be commenting as a citizen.
Yeah, it probably isn't the best way to do it. We can maybe as a.
Is he online?
Yeah, that happened once before, and I was wondering if that was not a good idea. So the best way to handle it is you all want to speak would be actually during the discussion.
Yeah, when we get to it.
Okay, and the last two people, it was Regina Polite. She said, good morning, please do not allow DOT to place a wall along Rose Park pond area. But have them plant a thick layer of various tree sizes and plants. And then lastly was Faith Wind. I'm requesting the Hillsborough County CAC and TPO direct DOT to provide a tree shrub sound barrier for Robles Park next to I-275. Thank you. That was for your public comments.
Okay. Is there anyone else here for public comment on any other topic? Or online? Or by email? Nope. Okay. Yeah, I see DOT here. I'll skip over the chair's report. Just so you know, heads up for everyone. We have the Robles Park noise barrier listed under item 9 on the agenda, unfinished business and new business. You may recall that we addressed this topic briefly at the last meeting. It's my intention to call this up as soon as we get through the minutes so that we can dispose of that earlier on in the meeting while there are people here. And I know DOT is here, as I understand it, also to comment on this. And then we'll get back to the regular agenda action items. But having said that, do I have a motion for approval of the minutes for the January 8th, 2024 meeting?
Motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Racine and a second from Dr. Davison. Any discussion on the motion? Call for a vote by acclamation. All in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. That then takes us to the unfinished business item, Robles Park noise barrier, line item 9A. I understand that we have representative here from the DOT, at least I see 2. I don't know how many are actually speaking, but okay. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Yes, Brian Hunter with the Florida Department of Transportation. And I sent some slides over. They loaded on here or?
It's up to me. Because I can go get them. I did not see them. Let me go get them. We start talking right now.
Gina, are they on one of the network drives?
We can do an email, right?
Yeah, I emailed it to, I think you and John.
Okay.
Okay, never mind.
We can, once she comes back with the slides, they illustrate the topic. So probably better to wait until.
We can take a 5-minute recess till everybody gets themselves together. Just in place, if you would. Going home to my dog. Let's see how early we get out of here. Yeah. And, are you close up there?
They've already started building it.
Yeah. Probably better, process better. Yeah.
Where's the TPO summary and committee reports? Do they ever hand it out to us or they just listed there?
What are you looking at?
Item 12, addendum. There's TPO summary.
They're generally in the backup materials that are part of the agenda, emailed to you, so it should have been in the package.
See those.
So it's just north of. I'm wondering if there's any of the Business here, we can get over.
You want to talk about what happened on Tuesday at the special meeting?
So what it was.
Yeah, I'm here to do anything. I'm just thinking in terms of like numerous interests or something, we could, yeah. We learn in this school.
I'm not sure. Gales.
Which is what
Let's just give it.
I appreciate that.
So there's no wall.
Dr. Davidson,
Yes.
hi, you asked about where the committee reports and advanced comments are in your agenda.
Yeah, the addendum. Were
Yeah,
they?
so it's actually part of the TPO board meeting. And it is, if you click on that addendum on the agenda item, it'll take you to those minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It's the game. I'm changing around. Put it on the new set. That's the introduction. Pretty sure they're gonna have. For that CST workshop. I have the whole team. Pretty sure they have that. Part of you. And it's a very rare thing.
Wait, yeah.
Yes, it works. Florida County Commissioner workshop. Put it on your.
Yes, I know.
Today. I just, yeah, I talked to them today. They were like, we're doing a grant. Huh? Jason.
I got Jason.
And,
What's that?
well, I don't know how to that name. Okay, I feel it. I keep it.
All right, we're gavelled back in.
That's all.
Did a great job at the techno.
Perfect.
Thank you, Gina. Sir, could you identify yourself again, please?
Absolutely. So Brian Hunter with the Florida Department of Transportation, just given, we were asked to provide a brief update on the Robles Park noise barrier. So this is the current, kind of the current condition prior to construction condition. As you can see, there's some trees and some landscaping as well as a chain link fence. This is the condition that will be in place following construction. There will be a 14-foot wall continuing down the interstate corridor as just continuing the wall that's there. We're working with the city of Tampa on the landscaping project. We have an existing landscaping maintenance agreement with them. And so we'll put in landscaping on the west side of the wall. And this is the current condition. We've started the footings along that corridor right there, and we anticipate the completion of the noise barrier at Robles Park and is through late spring, early summer. I think that's it.
Okay, so there.
Chair, can we ask a question?
Sure, absolutely. This is the presentation.
Absolutely.
DOT is the rep. So are there any questions for Mr. Hunter? Mr. Frank?
Can you go to the second slide just so we can see the proposed conditions?
Absolutely.
Can you provide a little bit of dimensionality to this? You said the walls are 14 feet. Obviously, this is a rendering that is maybe not the scale, but what's the width of the planter from that base of wall?
This one might give a little better view from the edge of the footer. It's probably somewhere in the range of 12 to 15 feet.
Is the plan to move that eastern curb on?
I believe so.
No, so between the curb and the footer of the sound wall, there's gonna be about 12 feet.
I believe it's probably an estimation based on this picture and I was out there earlier this week.
It's a little hard to tell from this picture just how wide that space is.
Yeah.
So my second question is, in order to plant the plans that you have now for landscaping, does that include preserving any of the existing trees that are there? Or are is this whole thing gonna get scraped flat and regraded and then planted?
That'll be part of the coordination we have with the city of Tampa. The landscaping plans have not been completed yet. So we're currently working with them on that.
And do you have a minimum size spec, how many trees you're planning to plant?
As I said, we haven't finished the landscaping plans out there. So how the department does it is we will put the landscaping in and then we turn over maintenance of that landscaping to a local community. And so we work with them to put in the plants that make sense for the community and that they are able to maintain.
Do you have any preliminary budget idea or any idea at all about like what exactly is going to be planted in the space as part of your plans today at all?
I don't have that off the top of my head. No.
Okay, that's all I've got for now.
Good.
Mr. Frindle.
So I assume that the wall here, as I understand it, typically is to reduce freeway noise, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And typically that would be to benefit the surrounding neighbors, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I guess my question is here, the neighborhood, at least this people that came here for public comment seems to not want the wall, which is where they live. It seems to want strictly a green barrier. So what's wrong in this case with providing the neighborhood what they seemingly desire?
So for a number of years, we had conversations about the wall in this area. It was requested numerous times. We were able to find a way to make that happen. And so that's why the wall is going in. And that was through the TPO board had requested that. It's, we've gone through the conversation of how we got here and numerous times.
But you might have an answer to the next
Well,
question.
I copied you guys on a letter that our chair had sent to DOT because there was not going to be a wall there, which seems like they were ignoring an important community for, abatement of noise and maybe even pollution or whatever else the positives of a wall would do. So we kind of fought for the wall, but we sent letters to the state and there's some things about, because there was no residents there and you had to kind of justify why the wall shouldn't be continued, because it seemed weird that there was a wall and then in front of this community, there wasn't one. So, but now we're hearing that with updated environmental, concerns or global warming, Lean and I had a great conversation today that there is a shift in my viewpoint of what would be desired there. And I don't know if it doesn't sound like there was an extensive, reaching out to everybody in the neighborhood. So I don't know if there's some kind of consensus of what folks want there. I've heard different things from different people. And being a resident of 2 houses from the interstate myself, I feel different, a certain way, but I'm also not in by a park. But I'm happy to find my spot. You are. Sorry.
Wait, were you done?
I guess one of the things I wanted to ask is you said there were discussions about this, and I understand there are differing viewpoints, but how extensive was the outreach in terms of build the wall, not to make that joke, but build the wall or not build the wall? Because it just, I find that I've been on this committee for 5 years, and it's rare that we have so many people come down public comment, which generally to me suggests that, there's a larger group of folks besides the ones here that feel a certain way about maybe not having the wall in the neighborhood. Of course, I know how bad the wall is outside your house. So I just wanted to get an idea on maybe what the community outreach was before making that decision.
Yeah, so we've done numerous community outreach opportunities for this entire project. We've done, I think, hundreds of public outreach opportunities, going to community meetings, holding open houses. I mean, we've done an extensive amount of public outreach for the I-275 projects.
Well, I want to separate specifically the I-275 project from the wall issue.
It's hard to do that because there's so many components to an infrastructure project that you can't do outreach for each individual component of that. This is, we did the public outreach on this. We heard from the TPO board that they wanted a wall. We're putting in a wall. I mean, I don't really know what answer would make the group happy when we talk about that. It was a request. We accommodated that request, and now we're hearing, once construction is started, we're hearing that the request has changed.
I have one final question on that.
Yes, sir.
So what's to prevent DOT from not building the wall at this point and accommodating the neighborhood's request?
I mean, as you saw, construction's already started.
Well, but I mean, it's a foot instead of 10 feet. I mean, that could be changed, couldn't it?
I think we would need the direction from the TPO board to look at that as a consideration.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the floor.
Mr. Frank?
Yeah, just, I think, the footer's already being poured, which is, I think, unfortunate because, had there been maybe more communication around this specific subject at a certain time, maybe things would be different. But I think it's maybe a little bit tough to get that genie back in the bottle. I was just zooming up and down this part of Robles Park, and I, found where the asphalt meets the brick, like in this rendering where the inlet is. It's really the widest part, unless the interstate's footprint is getting further away from the curb as you get further south. So if it's 12 feet here, it might be at best 6 feet further south, which is, I think, going to be really challenging to plant. And I think, if anything, there might be a compromise where, there is a wall, but then you can't see it because it's so densely planted with large enough caliper trees and enough shrubs. And maybe you get, vertical green walls with, jasmine growing up. Like there are ways to maybe do a little bit of both. Although I think the science behind sign walls are sort of junk science to begin with, but I do think that what you're showing in the rendering is maybe very light on landscaping. And so perhaps if there was more conversations with the community and with the city about this area, that, by planting it really densely, preserving the trees that are there today, so you want to start from scratch with 2-inch caliper, baby pines, or whatever you're going to plant, are ways to maybe get closer to a compromise. Than not.
I mean, we're open to having any of those conversations with.
But I think they got to start like now.
Mr. Sink?
So I'd like to, thank you for being here, by the way. I'd like to start with the community outreach. I am on a board for Tampa Heights Civic Association, and I know for a fact that in our minutes, multiple times, the green wall has been brought up, and the response has been either no response or we'll get back to you. And I think it really comes down to consent. These people in this community that we live in, I live blocks away from there, have not consented to having the interstate expanded, right? We had no say in that matter. Then we say we would like to have a wall or a green wall done. No consent. And it feels like DOT moves forward with, you have plans to build a wall, but you don't have plans for the buffer. So how do we not have plans that say, here's the landscaping plan when we have footers going into the ground? Because I know when I submit for a house permit, I have to submit my landscaping permit and my plans at the same time. So how is there a disconnect that we don't have a actual plan for landscaping when multiple times, and I can find the minutes from other organizations, this has been brought up and it's been kicked down, and now we're at the point where we're pouring footers. So I guess my question is, how did we get here with the neighborhood talking about it, DOT not answering or kicking the can, the wall goes in, and suddenly, again, we're without consent on what's happening in our neighborhoods. So that's kind of frustrating, knowing that I've heard this time and time again, and we've never gotten a solid answer other than too late, we poured footers, you get what you get, which has been the last 20 years of the interstate in this neighborhood.
So typically, we break out the landscaping from large construction projects like this. We don't, somebody who builds a road doesn't want to take responsibility and warranty for trees that are put in. So typically we break those out and we hire a landscaping company to do the landscape construction after the construction is complete. And like I said, we don't have those plans yet because we're coordinating with the city on what that landscaping looks like and what they are willing to maintain as part of the landscape maintenance agreement that we have with them.
And so follow up, it feels like a bunch of this, which is talk to this guy, and in the meantime, nobody gets the input honored. And the neighborhood again, which is predominantly a minority neighborhood, it's a very mixed neighborhood, has always had things put through it. And we're continuing the same history that started this when it was built. So I guess the neighborhood is frustrated and I understand where it is. And I've been on other boards that we've tried to work with DOT on it. And there's no resolution. And again, it's getting pushed down their throats and it just feels kind of dirty.
I mean, we're more than happy to come to your association's meetings once we have the with the city, come to there and discuss what the landscaping wants to look like, what you guys would like to see out there, and make sure that we incorporate your comments. But
thank you. I appreciate you being here. Like, I wanted to say thank you for being here and listening. Like, I do appreciate it. And I think the community appreciates that you're here at these meetings. So thank you.
Ed?
Yeah, I just want to recall that not that long ago, DOT was being excoriated because they were ignoring the neighborhood. Why is there a noise barrier here and here, but there's not one here? And that was something that we discussed at length. And I mean, and we had people from the community speaking out on, we want a wall like everybody else has a wall. So now we have a wall. And I just want to say, I'm a tree lover myself. I cried when we had to cut down a big tree in our backyard last week. I love trees. But I also want to recognize that DOT was responding to explicit comments made to this committee and to the MPO. And so, let's not damn DOT because they're not listening, because in this case, they listened. And what's happened is the community has changed what they want. So maybe there's a way that we can make that wall have more green. I can tell you from my own experience, climbing ivy, it glows up every place and you cannot get rid of it. And it creates a really nice green wall. So, I mean, I'm very sympathetic to the neighborhood, but I also feel like, don't crucify DOT for doing what the community asked for.
Dana? You exist. Okay. Oh, okay.
So is the city of Tampa paying for the landscaping?
no, FDOT.
FDOT is paying for.
Percent of our construction project goes to landscape.
And so there is an amount of money in that budget because that's planned for.
Yeah, it's a statewide budget, not particular to a particular project, but it is. We do have a statewide budget for landscaping, and this project will get landscaping as part of it.
Okay, and that amount of money hasn't been named or drawn down at all?
I'm not certain of the answer to that question, if there's been a budget allocated to this particular project or this stretch of roadway.
Okay. I just wanted to also make a comment. So I live in Ybor City, and along 15th Avenue, it looks just like this. And I've been of two minds about it. One, I like to walk up and down it and I think it's pretty. Two, it's not quiet. It's very loud. I don't live near it, but I wouldn't want to be one of the houses right next to it. Again, it looks just like this. It has a wall, but it also has trees in front of it. I'm wondering if, since the wall has already started to be built and there is plans to have trees, if we can make a motion, if you said it has to go to the come from the TPO to, pause on the building of the wall or whatever. But, and so my opinion, it seems like what would possibly be best is to have the wall and trees, to have a double buffer. I don't know, because just what, honestly, I am so grateful that the community like organized. I counted 12 public comments at the CAC meeting today. That's a lot. And we're hearing their voices directly. And I think we need to do what they want. And I am wondering, and I don't know, because there's multiple people, if you, I think I misunderstood a little bit. You want the trees instead of the wall, or would you be happy also with the wall and trees? And I'm just wondering.
Allow Ms. Green to answer.
Yeah, we don't usually do this, but Lena, if you'd like to respond to that question briefly, please.
Thank you for the question. Just want to go back to what I explained. We got to an agreement through various efforts, including with DOT. We got to the wall. New studies have shown that walls create heat islands.
Okay, so no wall.
That is a real thing. And a lot of people have not spent time studying it, but these exact 14 feet walls that you build in a place where one interstate comes through and another interstate starts, those are the conditions for heat islands. So now there's a new consideration. Now that we know better, we understand better. The walls were put in, the agreement for a barrier was made. DOT did work through making that happen. That's not bashing them. Now we understand about heat islands, and I live where those will affect the ear. There are 5 diseases that people look like me get impacted when we live close by interstates. I lost my husband from one of those diseases. I have a son who suffers from that disease. If we know better now that trees are going to be the thing rather than this wall that releases that heat island, why can't we just do the thing that improves the life of residents as opposed to saying concrete is already poured? Concrete was poured for years. Every time there's a new construction and more wide roads and roads and roads, more concrete is being poured. So that's not a good reason.
Thank you. Yeah, that answers my question. I just didn't
They
know
don't
if
want
it's
the
one
wall,
or the other.
period.
Yeah.
Okay. You had some, Dr. Davison?
Yeah, I mean, these are things that should have been worked out long ago. I mean, you know, we're arguing about what the house should look like and the footers being poured. You know, I sympathize with the community and, you know, we can't go back and change it. Josh may have a different opinion, but my concern is if you don't want the wall and you got your way and you didn't get the wall and it didn't provide the level of noise reduction that you desire, then you would, you know, you'd leave yourself open to having come back and now wanting a wall built because they didn't get the satisfactory noise reduction that they got. The heat island thing, I mean, whether you put trees there or whether you put a wall there, 300 meters out from that road, you're going to get pollution. Trees, walls, that hasn't shown to reduce it below the level of health that you're talking about. And at least in all the studies I've read. And so I'm kind of leery about, I can see going for both. And that's where I was leaning, having both the wall and the green to make it look aesthetic and provide the oxygen and the CO2 reduction that and the aesthetic beauty and the anti-anxiety that green brings. So my advice would be to sit down with the city of Tampa and FDOT and put the wall in and then find out exactly what kind of landscaping can be maintained by the city of Tampa, which we all know doesn't have unlimited maintenance funds. The CIT is coming up for renewal. They will have more money, and let's put a landscaping in there that will accomplish as many things as we possibly can. And then you don't have to worry about having the noise reduction because you didn't put the wall in, you put trees in, and now it's still louder, as loud as ever. I know it doesn't take away all the sound, but it has been shown to take away some of the sound. And so it's hard to say what it would be like without those walls. And that's my concerns. You don't put the wall in, and it's gonna be loud, you're gonna be playing out there, your kids are gonna be playing there, and it's not gonna do what you want it to do or what you feel it's going to do. And then you're gonna wanna have the wall built. And that'll be only been possible because all the work will have been done and everything will have gone away. It's being built, let's build it, and then let's make it as the best wall you possibly can, aesthetically, healthy wise, and to me, two's better than one. That's all I had to say.
Any other questions or comments over on the left side of the room here? Hey, do you have something? No? Mr. Citro?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My friend, you are just a messenger, and none of this question that I'm asking is meant to insult you or anybody else. Number one, is this wall a crash barrier wall, or is it strictly for sound?
It will have some.
It will have some benefits for a crash barrier. And what height does that wall have to be appropriate for crash barrier? And I'm going to get to a point here. I'm just asking these questions now.
3.5.
3.5 foot. And what height is this wall already built to?
It's just a footer.
It's just a footer. I've always been told that funds can be allocated up until shovels go into the ground. We've already got footers in for this. If the community says, we really want these trees, can we allocate some of these funds that are going for this wall past that 3-foot crash barrier and funnel that into a green living wall on the outside of it, on the highway outside of it, to accommodate these people? Can we go to TPO? Can we go to FDOT and say, we as a board are recommending, we're starting here today, we're recommending that those funds over that 3 foot, if you're following me, will go to the planting and maybe maintaining of these shrubs. Can that 3-foot crash barrier wall then be turned into a green living wall so that the neighborhood will be happy? And that crash barrier will be safe for the people traveling on I-275.
I don't know that that's necessary. FDOT's already committed to the landscaping on the west side of the wall. And so, and they, unfortunately with government, we have different pots of money. I know that's something you probably hear quite a bit, but literally we have different pots of money. Landscaping comes from one, infrastructure improvements coming from another. We cannot just move those. Those are statutorily defined on our.
And again, please don't take this personally. In the whole years that I have been a part of this in one form or another, this whole widening of 275 has been under so many different projects, under so many things, so many names, so many studies, so much funding. Can't we just take a little bit of the funding that was supposed to go for this wall and change it to meet the community's needs?
I mean, like I said, we've already committed to doing the landscaping, so I don't know what additional funds would do for that. We
More landscaping. To instead of making this a solid wall, making it a green wall. And I'm just asking, can those funds be changed?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Let me go with somebody who hasn't spoken yet. Stephen?
Yeah, thank you, Brian, for coming. You mentioned the TPO board could take action that could be meaningful to this. I have no idea what that action would be. I'm wondering procedurally, like what could they do that could have a meaningful impact on?
I mean, they could request to the department that we take a look at this. Just if they wanted to have the conversation, we'd be more than willing to have the conversation.
You'd be willing to basically just kind of stop for, a couple of weeks to have a conversation and see if there's something doable here to still stop the, or redesign the height of it.
I don't think we'd be able to stop, but we would, I mean, like I showed you, the footing's not going to be completed until the end of February, and then the wall itself won't be completed until late spring, early summer, so. But I mean, we've had these conversations with the TPO board before, and the request was to put in a wall. And so we are meeting the request of the TPO board. So
And if the TPO board changed and in light of the recent studies and community impact or input, it's not too late to still stop.
we'd have to evaluate that at that time.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Aya?
I just wanted to ask a question for the record. What is the schedule for the completion of the school?
Early summer or late spring, early summer. So
June, August, June, July.
July.
So when was the footing poured?
It's ongoing work right now. So.
Dana?
For clarity, is the footing a part of the waste wall or is the footing?
It's the foundation. It's what
Okay,
it's built upon.
so, okay. Just curious.
Christine?
Mr. Chair, I want to thank the community members that are coming in to be heard on this. And I also have been around long enough, as Ed remarked, that we were very, very supportive. The CAC really wanted and did actively support the notion of barrier or protecting I'll just say it very broadly, protecting this green space and the neighborhood from further damaging results of the highway that exists there. So we really cared very much then. The things that I see that are different now that are, I believe, worthy of consideration are the newer heat island information. This is something that I'm not familiar with, nor have I heard before on this particular subject. And I think it's also very noteworthy that the Garden Club has also appeared here tonight to say we are on deck and we are willing to help with a new and better green wall plan. So to me, those are two things that have me wanting to consider going back to the commission and saying we want to use the time while the wall the footers have been poured. FDOT has been, I think, a good partner up until now. So, kudos on that. But I think we do, I personally feel like it's would be appropriate for us to say, let's give some consideration to meeting the community further with what they want, understanding more about the heat island effect. I'm not sure how plants survive if we plan to do wall plus the plantings and trees. So I'm not sure about that, but I think that those are notable and important changes to what we heard and discussed years ago. Thank you.
See people with hands raised that have already spoken. Before I do that, is there anybody online that has not? Nobody online spoken. Does anybody online has a hand up? I see a hand.
Chris Vela has his hand up.
All right, Chris, you have a question?
Actually, I just have a point.
You have a question?
Yeah, I do actually.
Okay, then ask a question.
All right, so let's be direct here, Chair. So I posted in the chat a link that shows the heat island over Tampa with the downtown interchange and showing a concentration of heat over Robles Park and also Salinas community. My question is, has FDOT actually looked at heat data that's found in this link that I put in the chat, or has looked at any heat island effects data while the SEIS was being, I guess, made for the Tampa Bay Next project? That's my question.
Thank you. Is there a response?
I'm not certain.
You're not sure? No.
I mean, based on what I'm hearing today, I would say probably not, because the data that's being discussed has been, people said that it's relatively new and the SEIS was completed not relatively newly.
True enough. Are there any other hands up online? No? Any other questions or oh, Matt Sink had a hand up.
So, and I'd be more than happy to put this in a record. I'm CC'd into an email to Calvin with the DOT referencing Justin Hall on August 29th of 2022, where there's a presentation at Tampa Heights Civic Association where the 14-foot wall and a living wall was brought up. And there's not been a response from DOT, from the Tampa Heights Civic Association post that meeting, or a response to the email that I have. So I'd be more than happy to enter this into it. But this is more than a year ago. There's a meeting held, and I have the follow-up email to DOT that we didn't get a response back to. So this wasn't something that just showed up out of the blue. This has been a conversation that the Department of Transportation and Tampa Heights Civic Association never got a resolution to.
Has its hand up again. Before I go to Chris again, Josh, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, so when it comes to the concerns of the community, I just want to make sure I'm understanding it right. Is the heat island effect like the number one biggest concern, Lena, that you have with the sound wall? Is the issues with that increasing heat? Like that's the only issue with the sound wall at this point in time? It's sort of the impact to heat, or are there other things that worry you about the wall?
Josh, you wouldn't think that's big enough.
Well, no, I definitely think it's big enough, but the way that heat islands work is it's like basically when the sun hits it. So I would think that shading it with a lot of trees would go a long way towards reducing that.
Okay, let me just short circuit this a bit. The question was, is the heat island the issue?
Yeah.
The answer was, yes, it is. That's your principal concern that you're voicing.
Well, if I answer that,
If you have something more, go to the mic.
If I answer that the way that Josh asked it, it would be that the question would be interpreted that the heat island, that the trees or on the site is the thing that creates the heat island. The heat island is created by all that concrete that keeps on being poured in there. So that's what the issue is, that entire miles and width of roads, that's what create the heat islands, Josh.
Yes.
So,
Right.
but the shade of the trees is along 3 blocks on Robles Park.
Right.
I'm not even advocating for all the other walls, 14-foot walls that are everywhere else, but we have a park. 3 blocks, folks, 3 blocks of a park that we want a living wall.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're saying the same thing, so I want to make sure I understand it.
I wanted to ask, so basically you're saying it's too late now to make changes to the wall. They're getting the wall because you already have designed it, you have procured, you have bid, you have a contractor already who's already started construction. You're basically have to give them that money. Is that correct?
So we do have a contractor under contract to build this project. If the department was to look into doing any changes to it, we'd have to get the direction from the TPO board they would have to ask us.
No, that's not my.
I don't have an answer to that question. I believe it would have to be a change order of some sort to change it at this point, but I'm not certain what the contractual.
This is a design build project.
Correct.
And that design build project?
I don't think the I-275 capacity project is.
Well, I see Kurt nodding his head here, is it?
Yeah, it was a traditional design bid build project.
Okay, so the fact that there is the footing.
We're paying for the wall,
Who's building it?
the contractor.
The contractor is already in contract with you.
Yes, ma'am.
He has design plans.
Yes, ma'am.
So what are the potential of actually considering other options, having the contractor stop, meeting with the community and having the other options such as, and I'm throwing something out there, but doesn't mean that is what I'm asking, but basic potential of redesigning with no wall or potential other aesthetically pleasing barriers such as a transparent wall or something else that actually would meet the concerns of the community. I know it's gonna be expensive, but how fast can we get this changed?
Honestly, I can't answer that question. I don't have the answer to it.
So that is something the DOT, that the CAC committee can recommend to the board to have DOT redesign and do something else.
Okay, we're gonna need to bring this in for a landing pretty quick, so, wait.
But I was gonna move actually that we table this for now because we have 3 action items going to the board, but I think we need to cover them. So
Before we do that, you hold that to queue just for a second.
Sure.
I'm gonna pass the gavel.
I think, I feel like I asked a question and you guys just like brushed it over. And no one really realized that I'm asking to do something.
Well, because then he cannot answer your question.
Right? Like, I mean, no, but they're just deciding, are you?
No, I heard a question during Q&A and discussion. I didn't hear a motion. And I don't think the speaker had any further response for you, did you? Did I
No,
miss something?
unfortunately, no.
Okay. I'm gonna pass the gavel for just a moment. As I think all of you know, most of you know, I live in Tampa Heights and my home is adjacent to a wall that's just about 3 blocks south of this location, maybe not even. And absolutely, I'm not here to crucify DOT. I have been to some DOT crucifixions. This ain't one of them, all right? We did fight for some sort of a barrier. And we're getting a barrier. The problem is there was a disconnect in communication as to what that barrier is.
Sorry, that might have been.
Somebody need to mute themselves.
Apologies. Muted now.
Gave my voice on sounded like a deity. Right. Everybody muted? Okay. We had the discussion about whether there would be a wall or not, and the TPO certainly got involved, the CAC did. The disconnect is that nobody ever came back to the community, at least not the community I'm a part of, and I was on the board, I was president of the Civic Association, and I was here during all that time, 2017 on. Nobody ever came back to the community to get our input as to what that barrier, keep using that word advisedly, would look like. Had DOT come to me and asked me about that barrier, I would have been very opposed to it, as I would be opposed to the one that's right in front of my house. So that's where the disconnect is, miscommunication. You've seen it before, and I'm sorry, but I don't accept the proposition that it's too late. It isn't too late. Till the thing is up, it's not too late. I walk by around that park every morning and I see the construction that's there. There was nothing going on there 4 weeks ago, and there's not that much there now. All the trees have been taken out, but most of them anyway. But it's just the beginning stages of the construction. So what I would hope would happen out of this is not necessarily that we have any groundbreaking motions or recommendations, but that we turn the clock back and do what should have been done probably a year ago, when these discussions were going fairly heavily about the design of this whole structure, and get back to seeing if we can come to a meeting of the minds. It may or may not be what Lena wants. It may or may not be what I want. I don't necessarily agree with everything Lena said here today, most of it, but not all of it. But I don't think this is the best use of resources at the park either. So that's what I would like to see. When we get to the point of making a motion, I'll make a motion along those lines. We're not there right now, at least I don't think we are. One other thing. There is the wall right in front of my house, and the wall in front of my house moved. Just down the block from me, moved out about 12 to 15 feet. And as part of the process going through that, DOT worked with me and talked to me about what that wall would look like when it was rebuilt. That discussion didn't take place here. What we're getting on Elmore, just 2 blocks down, is a 14-foot wall, X number of feet for the barrier, and then X number of feet for the noise. That is the red brick facade, for instance, which personally I think is kind of pretty. It's what you see around Ybor City, and trees of this sort, fairly closely spaced to obstruct the wall. I was happy with that for the wall that's right in front of my house. Folks that live around the park, just a couple blocks north, may feel different. But my point is simply, you guys talk to me individually as a resident of Tampa Heights more than you talk to the residents that live right around the park. And especially the folks that you see right here in this room have a very vested interest in what it is you're doing. So that's the misfire here. And hopefully we can, as I say, turn the hands of time back just a bit before it is too late and try to get this right now. That's all. Yeah, take that. Okay, any other questions or comments on this topic? Mrs. Prindle.
Can I make my motion now? But sure, table this discussion at least temporarily so that we can get the specific items that have to go to the board this month.
All right, we have a motion to table.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes.
If we table it till I assume next month, that won't
That-
give any, no?
Not doing it till next month,
Until the end of
later
the
this meeting.
Okay.
At least that's what I'm hearing.
Correct. I'm not saying to push it to next month. I just want to table it so we can make sure and sign a lot of while we have quorums.
Yeah.
The items going forward.
Okay, I'm fine with that. We have a motion to table. We have a second from Mr. Citro, I believe.
Correct.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? By acclamation, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have 1 opposed. Okay, thank you. DOT reps, thank you, members of the community. We will get back to this a little later in the meeting. All right, we have a couple of action items to get to. You're on, Gina.
It's actually Vishaka. We're ready to go through it.
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Do you want me to run the slides from my computer?
yes, you can.
Sure.
Share your screen.
Yes, I'm sharing my screen now.
We see it.
All right, thank you. Good evening, CAC committee members. This is Vishaka Shivraman, TPO staff for the record. And today I'm here to present the TIP amendments for the following 2 projects. The first one is Hart Fixed Guideway, and the second one is on Fowler Avenue from 51st to River Hills Drive. So the first project is for the Hart Fixed Guideway. This project is for amending the current TIP to add $750,000 of FTA funding annually. This will be mainly used for rebuilding 5 streetcars. Rebuilds are specific for each streetcar, but the overall goal of the project is to bring them to like new condition. They include various repairs such as roof repairs, air conditioning, air compressor, wiring, welding, floor replacement, interior refurbishment and exterior painting, new propulsion cable, etc. These repairs will be performed by Gomaco, who is the original manufacturer of the cars. This slide shows the summary of changes. As you can notice here that this is a project that adds a new project to the TIP. The capital funds are added in the first year of this project as part of the amendment, which is the $750,000. Please note that the funding from fiscal years 25 through 28 will be captured in the new work program by the FDOT and will be included in FY 25 to 28 TIP. This is a second project. This amendment is for an existing project in the TIP. And it's for amending the project location. The project will update, this amendment will update the project by changing the termini from Bruce B. Downs Boulevard to 51st Street. And also by doing so, it'll reduce the construction funding. The purpose of this project is to preserve and extend the life of the existing pavement through milling and resurfacing. The work also includes additional improvements such as drainage work, a new signal and pedestrian signal at 52nd Street, lighting retrofit, ADA compliance, and also perform general safety modification work. This slide helps you to understand the project location and also shows the summary of changes. As I mentioned in the previous slide, the project location has been moved from west of Bruce B. Downs to 51st Street, and this is mainly due to a rise in construction cost. This is again a slide that shows the summary of changes. This is also included in your packet. Please note that the overall construction cost has been decreased by $5,000. But some of the funding codes within the program have been moved around, and some of the funding, including district dedicated revenue and SU funds, have been reduced. And some of the other funds, new fund codes have been added. Thereby, the overall effect is a reduction in funding by $5,000. In this slide, I would like to explain a little bit on the project timeline. Please note that this is a short project and it will be adding funds immediately to the first year of the TIP. The construction is anticipated to be letting go in May 2024, and the construction will go through summer, and the project will be open to the public in fall 2024. This is a slide that shows our outreach activities. As part of our required public engagement guidelines, we published a newsletter article describing the amendments. We also published information flyers on social media, created a web page, and posted signs on the corridor where the project is physically located along Fowler Avenue. And these are some of the screenshots from the press release and the outreach activities that we conducted. With this, I would request the committee to recommend approval of the 2 TIP amendments mentioned above and recommend to the TPO board for approval. I can take any questions at this time.
Okay, start over here on the left, Dr. Gibson.
Yeah, on the hard fixed guideway section, I thought that they were trying to convert those streetcars into modern transportation, not redo and refit the old classic streetcars. I thought that was part of the long-range transportation plan originally.
That is a different project. I believe it was a miscommunication mentioned somewhere, but this project specifically is for the state of good repair. And through this, the only guidance that we have been given are the streetcars would be repaired and brought up to standard, like new condition.
So the modern streetcar that they were contemplating isn't going to be done?
That might be a different project.
There's only one streetcar in the city of Tampa.
I can answer.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
So in order to modernize, they have to adjust the tracks. The turn radii around certain areas need to be widened in a lot of the modern cars to make the turns. So they haven't purchased the cars. They haven't got the funding, the local match to do all that work. So that's all kind of on pause right now. The refurbishment of the cars, the historic cars, well, they're heritage cars because they're not actually historic. That's a separate project that comes up every couple of years.
Okay, so this is just a gap filler until they fix the turn radiuses for the modern street.
Until the city can match the state and federal funding in order to pay for the modernization project. Yeah.
And then on the River Hills Fowler Avenue project, isn't Fowler Avenue undergoing a complete street project by FDOT? And I think it goes all the way down to 50th Street. So that would overlap with this.
So I can talk a little bit on that project.
I just don't want them overlapping, doing the same thing twice.
No, so that part of the project will be covered under another existing project, which is 445652, which is from Florida Avenue to kind of this location. That's why the project location for this project has been moved to, and the other part, which is shown in this pink color here, would be captured in the other project.
Okay. wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the left side of the room here? Anybody on the right? Mr. Frank?
I just had two very similar questions. One was about the streetcar project. Do we have an updated time frame? I guess because this comes up every now and again, and I know these cars need to be refurbished, and it's probably going to be a while before we figure out the local match. Does Hart have their sort of blessing behind this? Because last thing we want to do is to fix up the old cars, and then I know the intention was to sell them to Kansas City or whatever other agency still uses these gauge of cars. So what I'm curious of is if we're going to spend the money and then go ahead and turn around and sell it, is that a wise thing to do? Just making sure Hart has seen this and approved it.
So I cannot, thanks for that question. Unfortunately, I don't have that level of detail to speak on that project. As far as I know, this was only to refurbish. I don't know what the future plans of Hart would be, but this comes from Hart as a request from Hart through
Okay.
FDOT for us.
And then my second question was about the Fowler Ave project. Because of the Complete Street project and the milling and resurfacing that's happening east of it, which is the new project segment, which is yellow, I'm assuming, and the red is no longer part of this. Is there, what kind of coordination is planned between those two projects? Because what last thing we want to do is have a Complete Street, abruptly end at 50th or 51st or whatever, and then have this milling and resurfacing happen and putting it back exactly the way it is. Is there some sort of transition or coordination that's happening between those two projects at all? Or are they just simply gonna cut the asphalt and put it back exactly as it is, minus a few ADA fixes and things like that?
Again, this is all the information I have. I can definitely get back in touch with the project manager for the project and maybe shoot a response and forward it back to you if that would help. I'm sure there would be coordination in this project, which is why that section has been moved to the other existing project, which is currently happening near the Fowler, on Fowler between Florida and this section. And then this would be a continuation of it, but it's a different project. So I'm sure there would be coordination, but if you would like to have specific design guidelines, I can definitely write to the project manager and try to get some information for you. Yes.
Brian?
Oh, Brian
Yeah,
is there.
so-
Thank you, Brian.
Not a problem. Brian Hunter, FDOT again. So the bat lane ends at Bruce B. Downs, which is west of the project terminus here. And then the typical section will be pretty much continuous through the rest of the core. So there won't be any throwaway or anything.
The bat lane ends at Bruce B. Downs?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The PDD has it ending at Bruce B. Downs.
Any other questions or comments from the right side? Anybody online? Any hands up? I don't think I see any. Gail?
No, sir.
Oh, sorry, we had somebody in the room. Ilian?
Sorry, I just had a quick question. For the streetcar repairs, all the funding would be coming from FTA?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments in the room? Not, could we have the recommendation slide back up, please?
Sure.
All right, we have a recommended action for us. Recommend approval of the tip amendments to add Hart Fixed Guideway FTA section 5309/5337 project and update termini and funding for Fowler Avenue from 51st Street to River Hills Drive project to the TPO board.
So
Is there an
moved.
enabling motion?
So moved as proposed by staff.
All right.
Second.
Dr. Davison moves and Mr. Majewski, second it. That was you, Ed? Okay. Any further comment on the motion? Do we need a roll call on this? Okay. We could then by acclamation, all in favor of the motion, please indicate aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Sounds unanimous to me. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That takes us to the 2024 safety performance targets. It's my favorite every year. Okay. All right. Connor McDonald.
Yes, sir. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yeah, you need to figure out somebody else to pass this thing to. All right, you're on.
You tried.
All right. I'm Connor Trejos McDonald, TPO staff. I'm here to present the 2024 safety performance targets. 1 second. So as a background or a refresher, performance targets are required by MPOs out of the MAP 21 legislation, which is Moving Ahead for Progress in the 21st Century Act of 2012. It's since been renewed in the IIJA, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And a quote from it is that it creates a streamlined, performance-based, and multimodal program to address the many challenges facing the U.S. transportation system. There are 6 categories of targets, safety being the first, and I'm not sure if I can name them all, but one's on bridge and pavement condition, another is transit asset management, and so forth. However, safety performance targets are renewed annually. So there's 5 required targets: number of fatalities on a 5-year rolling average, the rate of fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, the number of serious injuries, rate of serious injuries per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, and number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries on a 5-year rolling average. Then there are 2 elected by the Hillsborough TPO, one being the number of fatalities and the other being motorcycle fatalities on a 5-year average. And before I get into the targets, I'll say, the TPO maintains the long-term goal of Vision Zero, as well as the state does that as well. The targets are required to be data-driven and realistic. That's in the legislature. And our methodology is to reduce the numbers by 1%. That's based on available funding. It's a FHWA best practice. It's highlighted in our 2045 LRTP. And also this methodology is supported, and we renew that support every year with FDOT and HART. So annual actual fatalities projected through 2024. In 2023, we estimate because there's a 60-day period in which fatalities are not available to us on the data platform. So we predict 199 fatalities, and with a 1% reduction factor, we're recommending a target of no more than 197 fatalities. Annual fatalities on a 5-year rolling average. This has increased in the past, and with the 5-year average, with the nature of it being a 5-year average, unfortunately, we in the past had a target that was higher than the previous. But the good news is that this is reduced, so we're now recommending a target of no more than 216. Fatality rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. Similar on a 5-year rolling average, it was increasing. However, we have seen that reduction and recommending a target of no more than 1.49. Motorcycle fatalities on a 5-year rolling average. This has kind of been up and down. Last year, we did see an increase, but this year we're recommending a target of no more than 37.93. Annual serious injuries on a 5-year rolling average, we have seen this decrease even before the numbers on this chart. So I think back to 2016, we've seen a reduction in serious injuries, and we're recommending a target of no more than 941 on a 5-year rolling average. Serious injury rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, we're recommending no more than 6.52, and we have seen a reduction there. Annual non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. Unfortunately, we have seen an increase, and with higher numbers in recent years, the target is set a little bit higher, and that's because of the 5-year rolling average, those anomalies throwing us off there. So the reduction, with the 1% reduction factor applied, we're recommending a target of no more than 240. So the report card on how we did in 2023, we met 6 of the 7 targets, 1 exclusion being motorcycle fatalities. And I apologize if you look on the link in your packet, the fatalities was actually incorrect, so I've updated this, but I just want to make you aware of that. So 6 of the 7 targets were met, and motorcycle fatalities being one that was not met. I also want to point out that non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries was right at that number at 241. So the takeaways, the targets were not met for motorcycle fatalities, and non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries are seeing an upward trend. And local relation implementation, so what can the MPO do? The MPO and local government toolbox can design and prioritize safety projects in the local CIPs, continue to program safety studies in the UPWP, and the tip, we can continue to prioritize safety projects that are lower cost and or shovel ready. In addition, the Hillsborough TPO has a speed management action plan that has several recommendations, one being to design self-enforcing roadways, another to set and communicate safe speed limits, and finally enforce safe speed limits. The 2024 proposed performance targets are found on this screen. So I'll reiterate them again. The annual actual fatalities, no more than 197. Fatalities on a 5-year rolling average, no more than 216. Motorcycle fatalities, again, a 5-year rolling average, no more than about 38. Serious injuries on a 5-year rolling average, no more than 941, and so forth. With that, the recommended actions today is to approve the calendar year 2024 safety performance targets and recommended approval to the TPO board. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, we have a recommended action. Any questions or comments for Mr. McDonald? Josh Frank?
So as this comes up, I'll again make my yearly pitch that I think, one thing that is not included in the what the TPO can do slide is I think a renewed focus on reducing trips. A lot of what's in this list right now is treating the symptom, not the underlying disease. And so, there's two ways to go about reducing crashes. One is to make streets safer. One is to have less people driving on the streets and making that choice. So that trickles down into everything from concrete and asphalt to land use policy and zoning. So I think that is one category that we don't see a whole lot of in these presentations. So that's all I've got. Thanks, Connor.
Thank you. And if I may, I would recommend if you contact your local representative or a staff member at your agency, we can potentially get a study into the UPWP to study what would be like maybe a focus on reducing trips. So through that recommendation, it would be maybe a UPWP study. Just a thought there.
Okay. Anybody else in the room? Dr. Davis?
Yeah, I listen to what Josh says, but the past couple of years don't jive with that claim. There were massive reduction in vehicle miles traveled and the fatalities went up. So it's not just taking people out of their cars, you have to slow them down. That's the hard part. Secondly, probably most people in here don't realize this, but light rail, when you deal passenger miles and vehicle miles, light rail is more dangerous. That's been shown on several studies. So it's not that you just take them out because, and put them in, depends on where you put them. You put them in buses and you put them in different other types of transportation. You can lower the rate, but it's not just getting them out of the car. So I just wanted to make sure you looked at this.
Mr. Radrowski?
Yeah, I'd like to raise 2 points related to enforcement. In fact, I really would kind of like to have the staff bring a representative from the city and the county sheriff to talk about enforcement. And 2 things that I'm particularly concerned about, I've said this year after year, is the number of cars driving down the road with one headlight out. Particularly if it's the right headlight and you're turning into a crosswalk and a pedestrian is walking across. I just think that you stop when you're stopped at the traffic light, look at the cars going by and see how many it takes to see a car that doesn't have a headlight working. It's much higher than you think. The other thing is, recently I've noticed I'll be stopped at a red light and a car will pull up beside me and the smell of pot coming out of that car is so strong. And if we're going to enforce DUI for open containers, I think we need to be concerned about people driving while under the influence of pot.
Thank you.
Ms. Acosta?
Hey Connor, great presentation. Can you show the slide that is the TP, what the TPO can do? Can you put that back up? I'm wondering, as I understand it, we now have the ability in Florida, and we have some automated speed enforcement cameras in school zones. That's something we can see here on the list or the reference, or I'd like to see some advancement on these, you know, what the TPO is, you know, wanting to do. Designing self-enforcing roadways. I don't know where that's happening. I don't know where there's meaningful speed reductions. So I guess I'm wondering if we can add, or if you have any remarks on the automated speed enforcement cameras in school zones.
They're implementing some of those we've seen.
Yeah, I know.
Just like maybe, sorry, Gina Torres, because that I feel like we could assist the law enforcement, the sheriff's department, are making decisions about where those are, and I think that we would offer a much better view with data.
Yeah.
And about where those really need to be, you know, first, or maybe prioritize the list of schools that would be the best location for those. So I think there could be more influence that we can have on those decisions.
Okay. And just as a general reminder, Hillsborough County did do a high injury network speed study and found that of the high injury network, mostly state and county roads, 85% had speed limits, not actual speeds, but posted speed limits that are anywhere from 5 to 20 miles an hour faster than what is recommended in modern day application, including land use in those corridors. So basically that means all of our speeds everywhere are set too high, and then we have a built environment where they exceed that because it feels natural to drive faster. So this exercise is, I know we have to do it. It's just so painful. I'll stop talking now. Every year.
Dana, did I see your hand up? Just.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a visceral reaction to this. 4 people die on an airplane and people stop with the planes, and it's a national crisis, but people die every day on the road and it doesn't matter. It's so bizarre to me. I want to support what Josh said about reducing trips. Design is so important. You can't just reduce the speed, you have to reduce the width of the lane, and you have to do some creative like twists, bends in the road, and there's all kinds of things that we know what these treatments are to improve safety for all users on the road. In places like the Netherlands, where they have a focus on bicycle transit, they have zero fatalities. I mean, so there is lots and lots of data that shows that increasing modal share reduces the danger on the road. And I think that is just
For all users.
For all users, plus the myriad of other benefits that modal share creates. So I really want to support kind of like a paradigm shift. And the addition of something like that renewed focus on reducing trips, I like the way that Josh put it in this plan possible. Thank you.
Then I'll go, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Prendel.
Yeah, just wanted to kind of second a little bit what Dana was saying in terms of, I dislike the focus on speed limits because it just doesn't matter. Unless you're gonna put speed cameras everywhere, you know, arbitrarily setting speed limits to try to reduce speed will not work. Because people drive as fast as they feel comfortable or safe on the road. you know, the speed limit on Interstate 75 is 70 miles an hour. You can safely drive 95 miles an hour on that road if the weather's good, you know, so, to Dana's point, I think some of the focus needs to be on the design of the road. Ridgewood Avenue in Tampa Heights actually stands out to me where they put roundabouts in and some, you know, curb bumps and other things like you can't really drive fast down that road if you try to. And I think that's, you know, more of the focus, especially in neighborhoods. Obviously, arterial is a little more challenging to do some of that stuff, but you know, I think we need to really focus on design and kind of stop this arbitrary focus on speed limits, because if they reduce the speed limit on Bayshore by 5 or 10 miles an hour, you still have accidents, you still have issues, because the design of the road is still designed where you can drive 50, 60 miles an hour without issue. So that Dr.
Davison.
Addressing Hoyt's thing is that everybody here should know that on the long-range transportation plan, there are no safety features included for the vast majority of roads. Any local roads below large collectors are not included. So there is no reduction in death estimated for anything on the roads that he was talking about, those small roads. It's only on the bigger ones, the interstates, the large arterials, that really get the safety.
Yeah.
I want to bring up that, as a city of Temple Terrace representative, but also as a person who works for the city of Tampa, is that there have been multiple grants that Hillsborough County and the city of Tampa, so local jurisdictions and governments, have been applying for through the federal government, and they have been awarded those grants. They are working on improving safety on the high injury networks, which is the network that they agreed on and they studied extensively to specifically address the network or safety improvements on the corridors that have fatalities or high injury crashes. And I'm not going to call it accidents, because I also want to bring that to everyone. We're not calling it accidents anymore. It's called crashes. So there has been, so we are working, and the professionals in the field and are aware of these alarming numbers, but we are working on getting it. But it does take time to get money from the federal government. And it does take money to actually design and implement these and use this money. What I really would like to urge this committee to do today is to support studies such as the ones that the MPO is doing under the UPWP, or local governments such as the city of Tampa, or other planning studies that actually support the need for these grants and these improvements. This is what supports our applications when we submit those grants, when we submit those applications to the federal government to get these grants. So supporting these plans are really what is really going to have this money come to us. I understand that there is design issues, and then there is speeding issues, but so we've already been studying this, and we have methodologies. So we just want to, we have the data, and we want to encourage more planning and more studies. However, it's to get the money, this is what we need to do. And we just have to wait for the money to roll in and get the project going. That's it.
Great, James.
I wonder if there's any data that gives us more granular information, like where are these accidents and fatalities accumulating? If I saw a blue dot for a motorcycle fatality and a red dot, and I saw them all in a certain area, I think I'd get a good idea what needs to improve in those areas. I think now just to look at the whole county and say you're having X number of deaths doesn't really help you pinpoint where the problem areas are. That's just the question.
Connor, maybe
Yes.
you have to feel that.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So we of course do. We have access to where the, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. I can barely hear, but so we do look at where the crashes occur, and we have that data available to us. How we implement that or how we operationalize that is mainly through our transportation improvement program, the TIP, and that's done. We have a category of Vision Zero projects, and they're ranked first on the fatalities and serious injuries per mile of the segment. So we do kind of incentivize the local governments to look at where those crashes are occurring and applying for projects, as I mentioned, for federal funding where those crashes are occurring. Absolutely.
Okay, Chris Vella, you've had your hand up very patiently.
Yes. You guys can hear me, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So I have a question. When you're pulling this data, Connor, is that, and I think there was a comment that touched upon this, but I just kind of want to hear it from you. Where's the data pulled? Is it including like the expressways, turnpike, FDOT, state roads, city and county, or is it just certain types of roads?
Yes, it's pulled from Signal 4, and that's required of FDOT that we pull them from Signal 4, and it's on all roadways in Hillsborough County.
Okay, and I wanted to ask when, and this is kind of a tricky question, and I actually haven't been in this side of town in a while, but ever since FDOT put the infrastructure for the managed lanes on 589, the veterans, have you noticed that? Have you seen a trend of more crashes on that? And my other question is, since the I-4 connector has been in place, have you noticed a trend of more crashes between downtown interchange and the I-4 connector?
I would be careful myself as a staff member to make assumptions on where the crashes are occurring without having the data up in front of me. I will go on a limb and say in the past, the TPO staff has noticed that the crashes are occurring on east-west corridors. I won't call any specific roadways, but that's what we've noticed. We can absolutely look at before and after of where different projects have been implemented, whether that's like managed lanes on the Veterans Expressway, and see how that has impacted crashes. We can absolutely do that research, but I'm not familiar off the top of my head.
Yeah, see, here's the problem that I'm having with this whole study. It doesn't really go anywhere. And I say this because I got hit by a car while running in downtown late last year. And there wasn't any type of devices to capture who that person was. And they, of course, jumped on the interstate because I was near one of the downtown interchange. Everybody's always rushing. We need to, you know, I know enforcement's important. I wish I had a camera that day to capture that. The cop couldn't do anything, and I was kind of bruised up. But we need to find out the share of responsibilities for these crashes. So I'm not sure when you do transmit this report over to the feds, if it bifurcates where all the accidents occur under whose ownership. My point is that I think while reducing VMT is important, we need to figure out whose responsibility this falls under. Are we seeing more of these crashes under FDOT, the expressway, the county, or the city? And which ones are the most deadly ones? Because then I think we can focus more directly as to urging the people who are responsible for those roadways to actually fix them. Because right now we're just doing a very blanket statistic. And I think a lot of people in this room really kind of want to know where some of these things are. So when you submit the report to the feds, is it actually broken down into like, the amount of accidents under the ownership of the road? Like FDOT or the city or?
So what's submitted to FDOT and Federal Highway is actually literally this presentation. And we submit that after it's been approved by the TPO board. So there's not necessarily, a report that we look at. But in the future, if you'd like me to include maybe a map of where these roadways are happening, I'd be happy to do that in future years.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I appreciate your help.
I'm told that Terrence Trott has a hand up as well. Terrence, you out there?
Hey, I'm here. Good evening. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say, the motorcycle statistics struck me, and I'm just wondering, we have no helmet requirement. Um, it, do we advocate that as, for that as a region? Is that something that, am I being a spoiled sport in Florida here for asking for this or something? But I'm pretty sure that the research is clear that it saves lives to wear a helmet when you ride a motorcycle. Is this the appropriate place to slide in the line about that, or what? Connor, can you help me out? You have any thoughts, or?
Gina may be able to add, but we do support through Vision Zero different advocacies towards safety. So I don't know specifically on motorcycle helmets, but maybe Gina has something to add.
I do have some input there. It is a statewide law, and there's a statewide coalition for motorcycles. I went to that coalition and brought that idea up, and there were daggers coming flying at me from all of the motorcycle advocate groups that are represented there. So as a motorcycle rider, would you like to say anything about that, Mr. Citra?
Well, I would love to, Mr. Chair, if I may, and I'll include my questions. Number one, Mr. McDonald, that as a motorcycle rider, and I know that not all motorcycle riders are saints, but can you give me some data on that uptick of motorcycle accidents and deaths? Was it the motorcycle's fault, or was it the car's fault, or do you have any data on that?
Specifically, so to answer the first part of your question, we do have data. We can absolutely look into that. When I previously have looked into it, there was I couldn't find any trends that where that it was the helmet that could be responsible, or that it was like left turn specifically. There wasn't a major outlier in that. And I forget the second part of your question.
Can you get any data on whose fault the accident was? Whether
Yes,
it's motorcyclists? Thank you. Gina, to your point, I ride motorcycles. I would not get on my bike without a motorcycle helmet. And I think the insurance companies need to get involved. If you're wearing a motorcycle helmet, hey, you know what? You're 100% covered. If you're not, you got to pay for part of the bill. That's just my opinion. To get to two of my colleagues' points here, usage and the deaths on Bayshore. I live on Bayshore. The deaths that were caused on Bayshore were done by people that broke the law. Drinking and driving, drugs and driving, or speeding. If we could make a recommendation to the state, to the federal government, to take all the people that drive to MacDill Air Force Base, whether they be retirees, active duty, or contractual personnel, to give them a transponder during work hours to take the crosstown instead of using Bayshore, then we could think about actually making Bayshore a 2-lane road. So the design option is correct, that it's designed to go fast. We took more vehicles off that, we could close it down. Excuse me, narrow it down. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments in the room? Christella, I see your hand still up. Is that a new hand or is that the old hand? Assume it's the old hand. All right, we have is there any other comment? Any other questions? All right, we have a recommended action to approve the CY 2024 safety performance targets and recommend approval to the TPO board. Is there an enabling motion?
So moved.
Dr. Davison makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second,
Ms. Yassin?
yes, second.
Seconds. Any discussion on the motion? See none in the room. Is there any online? Mr. Frank, we've had a motion and a second to recommend the action on the ask slide. Do you have any comments on the motion? All right. I'm going to ask for an acclamation vote. Again, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have, looks like two negative votes. Yes? Okay. Mr. Prindle and Ms. Acosta, I think, were our two nay votes. That concludes our action items. Gina, among the status reports, we have three. Which, if any of these, are on the TPO board agenda for tomorrow?
It's for next Wednesday. The one that's on the, TPO board agenda would be the 2050 needs assessment for major projects. If we are going to skip the others, by the way, I want to thank DOT for waiting all this time to do that presentation on Good Simpson. If we do end up, or if you want to wait to the end of the meeting, like beyond age. So
Well, I want to maintain, we don't need quorum for the status reports.
Correct.
We need quorum for unfinished business. If we're going to go back to the Rebels Park noise barrier question. Did we untable that topic? And then go to the status?
Yeah, but I don't think we should make it a discussion.
No, not at all. All right, I'm bringing the Rebels Park noise barrier issue back off the table. And I have a motion. Yeah. Passing the gavel to the vice chair. My motion is to recommend to the TPO board that DOT be requested to re-engage with the Tampa Heights community regarding the structure of the barrier to be installed along the eastern boundary of Robles Park, abutting Elmore Avenue and I-275. That's the motion.
second.
We have a second and Lazarus. And we have some discussion.
I'd like to move to amend Mr. Fernandez's motion to simply add the requirement that when DOT conducts that outreach, that whatever the majority of the neighborhood wants should control regarding the option. In my mind, it's it's dumb to have re-engagement, have 70% of the people say, hey, we just want the living wall, and then say, nah, screw you, we're just gonna put this out there. So I would move to amend this motion to add that caveat.
Okay, so we have an amendment to the motion. Do we have a second for the amendment?
You did.
A second.
Oh,
Are you seconding the amendment as well?
okay.
Matt Zink, seconding it. Do we have any discussion on the amended motion? Ed?
Yeah, I would say I support the concept. The thing that troubles me is that any given thing, there's going to be some number of people there that may or may not be representative of the community and something else. So I'm not sure how you accurately determine what the community wants. I mean, we have members of the community here today. Some of our members here have strong opinions. I don't know, I don't know what mechanism you use to find out what does the really community want. So that's my concern.
Okay, Dana?
Maybe yet another amendment or amendment to the amendment could be to re-engage, to specifically engage with the Tampa Heights Civic Association and maybe the Tampa Garden Club, the organizations that were represented here tonight.
What about the adjacent neighbors?
Look at that, what?
The neighbors are like the immediate neighbors to the wall.
I'm trying to think of like methods. So I think like in-person canvassing would also be the best practice to recommend. So yeah, I would make that motion to amend the amendment.
Wait, do you want to just accept that amendment? Amendment to the amendment?
Accept the amendment if my second.
Okay. Matt, just want to second her amendment to the amendment? Like, that doesn't mention it.
I'm
We have a
sorry,
new- we have a new
excuse me,
amendment.
Vice Chair.
Yeah, so we have a, can you restate the amendment to Mr. Fernandez's motion?
If I can remember it. Generally, what I was saying is that I would like whatever the outreach done to the community regarding this issue barrier, that the majority of the neighborhood, however that shakes out, whatever that option is, controls for how the project ultimately comes out, because my concern is it's kind of a waste of time to do this, to re-engage everybody. If, 80% of the neighborhood says we want the living wall, and they're like, yeah, we're just gonna put up the sound wall. Anyway, I think, as I understood Dana's amendment, motion to amend my amendment was essentially had to do with who exactly they talked to in the process of doing that, which I'm happy to adopt everything that she said, as long as second. That way we can cut down.
A community representation being.
What she said.
The official neighborhood association that's a public record, which would be the Tampa Heights Civic Association. So if you go to the city of Tampa, it shows the outline, and the association that covers that area would be the Tampa Heights Civic Association.
Just that organization.
The garden club.
And the garden club.
The garden club here tonight.
Okay, so those two organizations.
By default, the garden club is part of the association because their land falls within it.
Okay.
If you want to simplify it, like if you're.
Okay. All right. Are you okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, so we have a amendment, we have amended the amendment. Matt, are you still seconding the amendment to the motion?
Yes.
Okay, do we have any other discussion on the amendment to the motion?
Yeah, I won't be supporting any of the amendments for the facts that what were brought up before. They brought up the thing about the heat island. You're telling me that a 3-block wall is going to create enough increase in temperature to cause the health problems? Nobody in this room knows that answer. And we're going to take somebody's desires that they feel is going to cause them a health problem. When that should have been done a long time ago. And it shouldn't have been, could have been taken to the TPO board. It could have been brought up here before. And now, when they're laying the footer for the wall, it's like.
But it was never answered. I had emails that was never.
Then you should have got on them a long time ago, but not after the footer's been laid and the work's been done. And now, because if you wait 6 months on this, it's going to cost twice as much. It's not going to be for free. You're not going to delay this for 6, 9, 8 months for free. It's going to cost more and more and more money.
It costs no contracts.
But let me just finish. It's that they build the wall, and even if they don't, if they just do with the wall that they want, there's no guarantee that they're going to be satisfied with that. We all know that.
It's their neighborhood.
But they still don't have to be satisfied. Oh, well, we wanted a different green wall. The bottom line is why not build the wall now? You can make that aesthetically beautiful. And it just, we have to move on.
Okay.
We just can't keep doing this.
Thank you, Dr. Davison. We have one more person in the room. Ilya?
I just also wanted to make a quick comment about this public engagement. These public engagement processes are not perfect, and there's going to be no way to accurately get every single community member's input. Especially lower class people, they often have work, they have other obligations, and I'm sure you've seen videos on Twitter where sometimes these public engagements just turn into people that have the time going there, basically trolling, screaming, ignoring valid points. I guess to kind of go along with Dr. Davis's point, you're not going to get any kind of clear, defined answer, and the process has already started. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ilya. Do we have anyone else in the room? Okay, we got Chris Vella online.
Yes, thank you. I'll just be really brief. I'm just a little stunned at what I'm hearing right now. I think when I heard the comments earlier, it was kind of more of a cumulative effect of the heat island effect. So there already is a lot of concrete back there. It's the downtown interchange, it's the interstate system. And I think the question is, why we're doing more of the same to amplify the heat island effect when there, of course, could be another methodology to deal with this. My second point here is that I'm been practicing architecture. I've been in construction. I've actually built things with my own bare hands. And I'm used to dealing with constant changes, even the smallest ones, where I have to rip out walls, actually rerun footings and so on. So it's a very everyday thing, unfortunately, that happens in the commercial world. It's not the end of the world to do a stop work. It's not the end of the world to do a modification of what you have, a change order. There's a lot of instruments contractually at FDOT's fingertips that they can exercise with their GCs to modify this project. So it isn't an end-all be-all situation. I do believe that I personally would like to have the TPO administratively order FDOT to stop work, and then of course allow these workshops or these public engagements to occur on a set timeline, and then therefore the changes can be re-implemented back in. So that's just my comment. But again, I don't know where, unfortunately, where my colleague Davison is going at with this, but there is a lot of heat generated by the downtown interchange. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we are discussing whether to amend the motion to add community input being required. Do we have any other comments on that topic?
I just wanted to make the comment that there's a lot of heat generated by the city of Tampa, period. Not just downtown interchange. That's a fallacy.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Davidson. Okay, now.
It is, and I have proof.
Thank you, Chris. As a reminder, we are voting on the amendment, then we will vote on the motion. It's always confusing. But yeah, so Gail, can you please take a voice vote on the amended motion?
The amendment to the motion.
The amendment to the motion. Yeah, correct. Thank you.
If you want a voice vote, you can call for that in the room. Otherwise, I can do a roll call for you.
Roll call vote. Roll call vote. Thank you.
Okay. So roll call vote on the amendment to the motion, correct?
Correct.
Rick Fernandez,
Yes.
Jim Davison,
No.
Hoyt Prindle,
Yes.
Joseph Citro,
Yes.
Aya Yassin,
Yes.
Stephen Hollenkamp,
Yes.
Christina Costa,
Yes.
Dana Lazarus,
Yes.
Matt Sink,
Yes.
Ed Murszewski.
No,
I'm sorry, was that a no?
yes, not yet, no.
Thank
That
you.
was- That was a no.
Ilya
Who's
Lashna,
first? No.
Hodges William,
No.
Joshua Frank,
Yes.
Greg James,
No.
Chris Gonzalez.
He's virtual.
I'm virtual.
I'm sorry, Chris. Sorry about that. Okay. The amendment to the motion passes 9-5.
Okay, thank you, Gail. So we have an amended motion. Do we have any discussion on the amended motion? The original motion as amended. Yeah. Okay, Gail, can you please take a roll call vote?
Now, what are we voting on now?
The original motion that I made
As
an hour ago.
Okay, but this was a refinement back, right?
You just voted on an amendment.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. No, thank you. All right, Gail?
Rick Fernandez,
Yes.
Jim Davison,
No.
Hoyt Brindle,
Yes.
Joseph Citro,
Yes.
Aya Yassin,
Yes.
Stephen Hollenkamp,
Yes.
Christina Costa,
Yes.
Dana Lazarus,
Yes.
Matt Sink,
Yes.
Ed Majewski,
Yes.
Ilya Lashnov,
Yes.
Hodges William,
Yes.
Joshua Frank,
Yes.
Greg James.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
I also voted.
One no.
It was one no.
I'm so sorry. The motion passes 13-0. I'm sorry, 13-1. Wow. Okay. I'm sorry. My eyes are a little bit crossed. I do apologize. The motion does pass
After
13-1.
All right, thank you, Gail. I will pass the gavel back to our chair.
I don't think I wanted to do that. Okay, so thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Status reports, are we going to try Jen?
This is up to you.
DOT's here.
The DOT's here for the Gibsonton presentation. The next presentation is something that will also come back to you again for action in April or May, I think is what Wade was saying. And the third one is just, not just, but we really want you guys to fill out and do the Access 2050 survey for the LRTP that we could have walked through, but there's no need to do that. You can do this at home. So for DOT, would you have a suggestion?
I would move that we allow the DOT folks that are here to speak and then adjourn the meeting and table everything else.
Second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a motion.
Seconded.
That's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nays. All right. So we are, let me catch up here. So we are doing the Gibson Drive.
Very.
Line item 8A. Okay. You are a shadowy figure.
Yeah, that's okay. You don't need to see my face. You can just hear my voice. But can you guys on the screen see it? Oh, you can just open the PDF. Can you see? Yeah, I think I just need to share my screen. Oh, sure. You know what you're doing. Yeah, thank you. It's my third one, so. Okay, ready? All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley Hensel. I'm a representative of the Florida Department of Transportation. I'm the project manager for this PD&E study I'm going to present on tonight. With me, I have Kirk Bogan, DOT Environmental Management Engineer, and Jeff Novotny, our consultant project manager with American. So the Florida Department of Transportation, in coordination with Hillsborough County, is conducting a PD&E study for Gibsonton Drive from Fern Hill Drive to US 301. We're here to update the TPO committees in advance of a public hearing on February 20th. Gibsonton Drive is a Hillsborough County roadway. The length of the project is just under 1 mile. The existing roadway has 4 travel lanes, 2 in each direction. There are existing sidewalks on both sides, except for a small gap at Kenda Drive. The existing right-of-way width varies throughout the corridor from 125 to 150 feet. The no-build alternative, which involves only routine maintenance, would remain a viable alternative during the PD&E study. The purpose of this project is to address future roadway capacity issues as well as improve safety conditions. Gibsonton Drive exhibits crash rates, which are higher than the statewide average for similar state facilities. The project will also provide improved mobility for pedestrians and bicyclists along the corridor. Expanding Gibsonton Drive from 4 to 6 lanes is consistent with the cost feasible portion of the 2045 Hillsborough County TPO's long-range transportation plan. There are no phases for design, right-of-way, or construction funded in the current CIP or in the current 5-year DOT work program.
Through coordination with Hillsborough County staff, the preferred alternative includes widening Gibsonton Drive from 4 to 6 lanes with a 22-foot wide median. There will be 2 11-foot and 1-foot travel lanes in each direction with curb and gutter and a 10-foot wide sidewalk on each side of the roadway. The road widening was shifted to minimize right-of-way requirements, impacts, and costs. Intersection improvements along Gibsonton Drive at US 301 are included with the proposed improvements. 1 new off-site stormwater management site and 1 new floodplain compensation site are proposed to accommodate the proposed improvements. The preferred alternative connects to the future construction of the Gibsonton Drive at I-75 interchange, which is under design by FDOT as work program item segment number 437652-2. Up to 30 feet of additional right-of-way is required along the north side of Gibsonton Drive, and up to 7 feet of additional right-of-way is needed on the south side just west of US 301. The preliminary concepts will be shown on the aerial boards at the public hearing. The project team evaluated environmental effects in the alternatives analysis. The project's alternatives were evaluated for impacts on natural and cultural resources and on the social and physical environments. There are no significant impacts to natural or cultural resources, contamination sites, and noise abatement is not feasible or cost reasonable. To accommodate the roadway widening and anticipated off-site stormwater and floodplain compensation sites, acquisition of additional right-of-way is anticipated. 20 parcels may be affected, 18 partial and 2 full parcels, which would include 3 potential residential relocations and 1 potential business relocation. The evaluation matrix compares the right-of-way acquisition requirements, environmental impacts, and costs of the preferred build alternative to the no-build alternative. As noted, there were no significant impacts to natural, physical, or cultural resources with the preferred alternative. The preliminary cost of the project, including design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction phases, is just over $38 million in today's costs. After the public hearing, the study team will gather, review, and consider all public input and update the project evaluation. The draft study documents will be updated and submitted to FDOT's Office of Environmental Management. We anticipate location and design concept acceptance by summer 2024. The public hearing is scheduled for February 20th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. with a formal portion starting at 6:30. The in-person session will be at the Riverview Public Library. A virtual session will be held the same day and time. Please visit the project website to register for the virtual session, and you'll be sent a link to the GoToWebinar. Comments received by March 1st will become part of the public hearing record. Draft study documents and materials will be available at the library, the DOT office, and on the project website until March 1st. To find out more about the project and view the public hearing materials before the sessions, you can visit the project website shown here, or you can contact myself, Ashley Hensel, the DOT project manager. Thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. We look forward to any comments or questions you might have. And remember to be alert today, alive tomorrow. Safety doesn't happen by accident.
All right, thank you. Blake Prindle, a comment or question?
2 quick questions. The first one is in the mock-up that you had, I saw that the outside travel lanes were 12 feet and then the 2 interior lanes were 11 feet.
Yep.
I was a little confused about that because typically, with a foot reduction in lane width reduces speed, and it just seemed interesting to me that the interior lanes, which should be the ones that you're going faster on, with a narrower lane. So I was wondering if there's an explanation for that.
I was thinking truck traffic on the outside lanes. And bus on the outside lanes.
Okay, and then the only other question I had is, will they be, upgrading the traffic signal at, Gibsonton and Fern Hill that's currently span wire as part of this project?
Not as part of this project. That's another project that Hillsborough County has currently under construction.
Okay, thank you.
Christina Costa.
If you could scroll back, there was one slide, you said the reason we're doing this slide included, improved safety, I think, fewer crashes and more, traffic, accommodate more traffic volumes. Correct. Am I understanding that? How does the new, desired design, reduce crashes? I mean, it seems like more lanes just means more people changing lanes. That's when lots of crashes happen. So what are the safety features that will reduce crashes on this when it's widened?
Sure, Jeff can help answer the question.
Sure, Jeff Novotny. The county had prepared a Vision Zero corridor report for this specific segment. It also included an element that was west of I-75, but we looked at the element from Fern Hill to US 301, looked at opportunities to take recommendations, both short-term and long-term from that report and implement them here. Some of the elements include a full opening, median opening is converted to a directional opening in one location where there seemed to be a hotspot. We're including 10-foot wide sidewalks so we can get the bikes and the pedestrians off the roadway. It's 45-mile-an-hour road, heavy traffic. So through the coordination with the county, getting the bicycles off the road allows a little bit more safety for those users. We're looking at 2 left turn lanes westbound at US 301, which is a recommendation from that study. We're looking at realigning Gibsonton Drive slightly through the US 301 intersection in the eastbound direction. Currently, you have to jog over almost a full lane to go from lane to lane to go across the intersection. We're going to improve that to meet the standard of 6-foot offset maximum. We're also adding curb extensions at the Matt Hogg intersection, where currently the right turn lane for the next intersection begins right away. So we're going to put a curb extension so that vehicles don't cross over into that turn lane through the intersection. And then also we're looking at the US 301 intersection, putting in islands where the right turn lanes are on Gibsonton to allow pedestrians to have less crossing time. They have a little bit more refuge to be able to seat themselves as they cross through the intersection. So we've implemented many of the safety recommendations that came from the county's vision report.
What is the what's the speed that is going to be, what's the design speed here?
The current posted speed is 45, and that's what we're looking at. One of the reasons for reducing lane widths to 11 feet was as an opportunity to perhaps allow drivers, give them, the feeling that's a little bit tighter and maybe slow down.
Julia?
Are there going to be design plans or plots for everything that you just talked about in the public meetings?
The public hearing will have a roll plot that shows the proposed improvements overlaid on aerials.
Thank you.
They'll also be available online.
And then they're online as well.
Any other questions or comments in the room? Dana?
Any safety improvements or infrastructure improvements for, you mentioned the buses that go up and down? That was going to be one of my questions, if there was ever any bus access past or future planned. And with that being the case, any transit considerations?
One of the reasons for the 12-foot outside lane is to allow buses to, more effectively maneuver and pull over to be able to load and unload. The coordination with HART in terms of design details like that would take place in the design phase. So certainly we've indicated the coordination with HART as a future element of the design phase.
So would there be room for like busways? That be a potential design feature?
At this point, there is an existing bus bay to the east of US 301. There are no current bus bays in this segment, but that coordination hasn't happened with Hart regarding future bus bays.
But with the right of way, would there be to add?
There could be, it depends on, during the design phase, as survey gets, collected in terms of elevations and things like that.
Christine, did I see your hand up?
Yeah, just one more follow-up question. Is there any potential that this will be earmarked in the future as the BRT? You mentioned the wide right lane to accommodate buses. Is there any vision for buses being exclusive in that lane?
The buses, there's a current bus route there today. That's the reason to accommodate the buses there. Not sure what Hart has planned for anything in the future.
Christine, I'd like to just let you know that Hart has asked us as we develop our unified planning program to potentially study a countywide BRT system. So we could maybe revisit if Gibson seems like a good candidate after Hart will tell us. Sure.
Daniel, I just had a question. Assuming everything goes according to plan, what would be the real actual time that this would open up to traffic?
We don't have any current funding for design right away or construction, so
If you got it in the next 2 or 3 years, how long would it take?
I don't have an answer on that. Sorry.
Saw a hand up here, right? Josh, right?
Yep, a couple of questions. Can you tell me what the context classification is for this segment? Is it C3?
The county has class C3, yes.
Okay. So I'm sure you're all aware of the FDOT's Complete Streets guidelines now that allow for 35 mile an hour on C3. And so I think it's a little discouraging to see what I would consider aren't best practices in the design section, the preliminary section that you've shown. So obviously things like bus bays, for example, street trees, the multi-use path, which I do see on there, which I think is up to best practices. But I think everything from the intersection striping, green permit to the bike lanes that exist to the east, for example, all those things should be well within what's acceptable for a project of this size and scope, and may even be, based off of what I see, a transition area to C3 to the further east. So there could be a C3T, for example, which allows for a lot of other new great things that DOT is including in their design manual. So I would just say that I think from my perspective, having seen a lot of these projects, this one does not, in my opinion, meet the best practice, and I'd like to see that improved. So, thank you.
Quick follow-up to
Dana?
sorry, who is funding this or initiating this project?
It's in coordination with Hillsborough County.
Hillsborough County. Okay, so if we wanted to advocate to that board to step up to those best practices, that's what
They even have a really great website that you all can check out.
We are working in coordination with them. They will also be approving the typical section package. They would like to be eligible for federal funding. That's why we're doing a DOT PD&E level PD&E study.
See any more hands in the room?
I've got one question. And I know no one's here about trees anymore. but
Mr. Singh.
I have a question. When you do widening projects like this, I know that on Highway 56 up in Pasco, like there's big wide lanes, but there's no trees. So like people are basically like crying as they're going up and down these roads on walking or biking. Is there any plans, or does the FDOT have a matrix on putting shade trees to support pedestrians? Just curious.
I think we'd have to coordinate with the county on landscaping for this particular project. It would come later in the design phase.
Okay, I'm seeing the landing strip, but not before Chris Vella's hand is raised. I think. Is that a new hand, Chris?
Yes, it's a new hand.
Okay, well, you got the floor.
Okay, so I was happily asked to look at this a little bit, this stretch of the roadway. So my big question is, there's 7 hard stops there, basically between 301 and I-75. My biggest concern when I was looking at this, it's not definitely, I mean, speed's a big thing, but I don't see how this could be a C3 road, especially with 75 dumping into it and what, an 8 or 10 lane road, 301 dumping into it. It's just silly. But my question is, has FDOT considered any type of hawk crossings? Because there's a lot of just businesses, service providers that are there. And I know that they are employment centers. And I know there's a lot of people who actually use the buses to access those areas. But I think one of the biggest problems I see is like, how do you cross this road? And so I wanted to find out is does FDOT have a plan to actually put like mid-block? I don't know if it's really gonna be a block, but at least some crossings like less than a quarter of a mile across this whole entire stretch of the roadway from I-75 to 301.
The overall project is less than a mile, and there are 4 signalized intersections within that. So we've got crosswalks at each of the signalized intersections. There's no mid-block crossing anticipated. The only place where it would possibly lay itself out would be in between Fern Hill and the first intersection, Mad Hog, through a very steep horizontal curve. And at a location where there's a full median opening, it's converting to a partial opening. However, that location in coordination with the county staff was that there would be no additional mid-block crossings.
Okay. With that said, was there any discussion about or thoughts of maybe controlling the right-hand turns at the signals to the point where you just literally couldn't turn on red? And I'm saying this because you have interstate traffic jumping onto this road, and then you have 301 traffic, and it's going to be really fast. And so with an actual mid-block crosswalk with a hawk system, that's going to give drivers a heads up. But if you guys can't control right-hand turns, then I think this is going to be a very dangerous design, even more so than what it is right now.
The signal timing is one of those elements that's addressed during the design phase when the design plans for the traffic signals are put together. So it's not something we look at right now, but certainly valuable input.
Okay, and then final question, because I know Rick's going to probably chew me out. There's very inadequate lighting on the road, it seems like. I'm trying to recall the time I've actually driven on this at night, but I don't remember it being too illuminated. Is there any plans because of the bus stops to have coordination maybe with TECO or to have some additional lighting thrown on this roadway?
That's also something that would be looked at further in the design phase.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, this airplane has landed. I thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, we're running a little bit beyond our normal schedule, but thank you for hanging in there with us. Gina, did you have anything more you wanted to say about this?
I really want you guys to take the survey. If you have neighborhood associations or clubs or whatever that you would like MPO or TPO staff to come and make presentations, we're willing to do that. We come to any events. We really need people to weigh in on the long-range plan. Anyway.
Okay, well, in accordance with the motion we litigated earlier, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
That's the one where you get like YouTube.
Oh, yeah. That bunny. Thinking. That bunny. There's.
That's funny.
What?